I'm David Beckwith. I'm here to introduce to you the first book in the Will and Betsy Black adventure series called A Hurricane Conspiracy. Before I get into it, let me just give you a little bit about the background. Will and Betsy Black were created one day when my wife Nancy and I were riding down I-95, and we were in Palm Beach County, and I looked over at her. Nancy was driving, I was riding, and I looked over at her and I said, "Sweetheart, how'd you like to do something together?" And she looked back at me and she said, "Well, David, I'm driving 80 miles an hour in heavy traffic, and this is not exactly the appropriate time or the place." And I said, "Well, no, sweetheart, I didn't mean that. I mean, how'd you like to write a book together?" And by the way, we always said when we lived up in Indian River County, the civilization as we knew it ended at PGA Boulevard, but that's another story. Anyway, as we were riding down, and she thought about this for a couple of miles, and she came back to me and she says, "Okay." So I said, "Well, just so happens I got an idea here." And I whipped a legal pad out of the back seat and I said, "I want to create a series where the protagonists are a married couple like we are. And you know, we'll make it kind of like Will and Betsy, not Will and Betsy, make kind of like Nick and Nora Charles of The Thin Man. Or maybe Jennifer and Jonathan Hart of Heart to Heart." She says, "Okay." I said, "And I'd like to name them Will and Betsy Black." And she said, "Why is that?" And I said, "Well, because, you know, Wilson Black was my step-granddaddy, and he was a great granddaddy. I mean, he took me hunting, he took me fishing, he took me to football games, and I felt like I would do something to Pappy's memory." And I said, "Well, Betsy came from the fact that my grandmother had two old house dresses, and Pappy called them her Winter Betsy and her Summer Betsy." So, you know, I came up with Will and Betsy Black. And she says, "Okay." She said, "But I got a condition of my own." I said, "What's that?" She said, "I want to start the first book with 'It was a dark and stormy night.'" I said, "I always wanted to write that down." So, with that in mind, let's get into Chapter 1 of A Hurricane Conspiracy. "It is a dark and stormy night," Will typed into his computer. Indeed it was. A gust of wind hit, rattled the house, and a torrent of rain followed. "Lord, I hope I get this finished and get this email off to Lexi before power goes out," Will said to his wife, who was squinting to see the storm's progress out of the one panel they had left open in the accordion storm shutters. Betsy frowned as rain hit the window again. "You better hurry. This thing's starting to look wicked. Good grief, Will, you should have seen that bottle brush branch sway just now. They're saying 10 more minutes and Peter comes on again with a storm update. Hope the cable isn't getting ready to crap out. I'm hurrying, sweetheart. I'm so flustered I'd keep making typos," Will said, not bothering to hide his irritation. "Man, oh man, do you hear that avocado tree? It sounds like it's beating itself to death against the house." "Peter's coming on the air," Betsy said. "You want to hear this? Just keep your drawers on and give me a second finish this. I'll be in a second." We're now feeling the feeder bands as the storm approaches shore. Winds are at 50 miles an hour, gusting to 70. Most of you should have completed your evacuation, but if you chose to ride out the storm, stay where you are. It's too late to go anywhere now. Road visibility is extremely limited. All the shelters in the county report they're full. Stay tuned to the National Weather Center for updates. Peter McCosh, the Indian River County Director of Emergency Management, spoke calmly into the television. Peter McCosh was a big man, not athletic looking, just big. He was 6'4", but did not fit the stereotype of a network announcer. In his brown polyester short-sleeve shirt, black wingtips, and vintage necktie, he looked more like a scientist than a slick salesman with an agenda. His authoritative tone was the one the public trusted. Peter's trademark was his necktie. People had known for years that when Peter removed it, disaster was imminent. As long as the tie was visible, he expected a non-event. "Peter's got his tie off. You know what that means," Betsy continued again. "Yeah, I know, Will said. "I'm coming. The email to Lexi's out of here." "Will, the last wave really slapped the dock. Do you think the Great White's going to be okay on the davits? If it's not, it's too late now." "See what the other channels are saying," Will said in a worried tone. And now a report has just come in to Channel 6 that the County Sheriff's Department has arrested 2 cars of revelers on State Road 60 when they refused to break up a hurricane party that was blocking the highway and preventing people from evacuating. Traffic had backed up for 5 miles. Idiots! Can you imagine such stupidity, Will said. Flip over to the Weather Channel. This is Jim Carolla, meteorologist for the Weather Channel. I'm in the parking lot of the Seahorse Villa, a condominium complex near the Pelican Inlet. Nervousness continues to build as residents here listen and wait. As you can see behind me, some people are still out on the beach, and there's even a surfer or 2. Orchid Island has been evacuated, and the bridge to the mainland is now being patrolled. Orchid Island residents are being allowed to leave the island, but no one is being allowed to return. Well, Will, I guess we still have time to bail, Betsy said. We decided we were going to ride it out, Will said. This certainly isn't our first storm. Remember Amanda? I'm still convinced this house is built to take a Cat 4 or 5. I hope you're right, Betsy mumbled. I know I am. Sometimes you have to trust your gut and keep your head, especially when everybody around you didn't. Something I learned a long time ago from my years in the stock market. Maybe we ought to call the Walshes while we still have a phone and see if they decide to stay put. A sudden gust of wind brought the Norfolk pine almost to the ground. A band of rain pummeled the boat again. I hope I don't regret not having that boat trailered, said Will, looking through the Stygian darkness at their boat. The lights flickered and the computer went down. Lucy the fox terrier jumped into Betsy's lap and down again. Up, down, up, down. The avocado tree branches scraped the eaves of the house. Lucy bolted and hid under the couch until Betsy finally dragged her out. Lucy jumped back into Betsy's lap, every bone in her body shivering and rattling. Coco, the family dachshund, whined in sympathy. The wind howled again. Lightning cut the sky like a saber, and a deafening clap of thunder followed. Lucy jumped straight up. We probably should have left, Betsy said. When Will and Betsy still had time to leave, the path of the storm was uncertain. Was it going up into the Gulf or move up Florida's east coast? They decided to stay and see the storm through at their house since their daughter Lexi was off at school, and there was only the 2 of them and the dogs to worry about. Only place they had to go was Betsy's cousin's house in Naples. Besides, they had no place to board the dogs. Public storm shelters did not allow animals. Maybe you're right, but we can't leave now, so let's see what we can learn from the TV while we still have one, Will said. I'll fix one last hot, fresh dinner. We could easily be eaten out of a can for the next few days, Betsy said. I just know that I'm not going to have any plants left, and the yard was starting to look so good. It was a dark and stormy night. A perfect night for murder, Will murmured, giving his best Humphrey Bogart imitation. You've been watching too many episodes of Murder, she wrote, Betsy said. Outside, another blast of wind bent the bottle brush tree.
Hit the gun.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the goddamn button. Okay. I'm waving the...
Good.
Huh?
I think it was